Please stay on stage. Please, please stay on stage for a few moments. Thank you. Thank you very much to Chairman and also the Speaker. I think there's no words to sort of stress how much valuable the presentation and how much we know now about red meat and the rest. Shall we give our applause, both the speakers? So with that, we'd like to call upon Yang Bahagia Datuk Dr. Abdul Ghani bin Haji Muhammad Din, DVC Academic for Lincoln College University, to present our appreciation to both our speaker as well as the chairman. Also to the chairman. Thank you, Yang Bahagia Datuk, and also to the chairman and speakers. Thank you very much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a short break for tea and come back in 15 minutes' time. But before we move out for tea, I would just like to pass over a health advice that is, please take less sugar in your drink, because Prof. Dr. Rahimah will be looking over whether you're taking extra sugar or not. Right? So please come back in 15 minutes' time. And to all the other speakers who are going to present after this, please see Dr. Satish on my left side to make sure your slides presentation is booked up. Please do that. With that, we adjourn the conference for 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll proceed with the next session. Our next session will be a technical session that will be chaired by Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Abdul Ghani Muhammad Din, DBC Academic for Lincoln University College, and the speaker is Honorable Professor Dr. Chandrakat Kokate, Vice Chancellor of KLE University, Bangladesh, India. We would like to welcome both our chairman and speakers to the stage.
Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, a very good afternoon. The first technical session will be on the topic Paradigm Shift in Quality Considerations of Health Sciences, Challenges Ahead for Developing Countries. We are proud to have Professor Dr. Chandrakan Kokate, who is at the moment the Vice Chancellor of KLE University, Belgaum, Karnataka. He obtained his B.Pharm in 1967 from Nagpur University, secured First Division, M.Pharm in the year 1969 from University of Sangar, and be awarded with gold medal, PhD in Pharmaceutical Science in 1972, postdoctoral research at Bandelstand Forschung, Germany. He was a visiting scientist to Germany in 1986 on invitation by DAAD. President, Pharmacy Council of India, President, 50th Indian Pharmaceutical Congress, along with the Federations of Asian Pharmaceutical Association, President, Indian Pharmaceutical Association, President, Indian Society of Pharmacognosy, Executive Committee member of All India Council for Technical Education, Vice Chancellor, FAC, Nagarjuna University, Guntur, Chairman All Indian Board of Pharmacy, AICTE member, Drugs Technical Advisory Board, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, member, UOC Standing Committee for Projections of Indian Higher Education Abroad, Review and Plan Grant Committee, member, National Board of Accreditation, AICTE, member, Task Force of Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, leader, Indian delegation of pharmacists to the 18th Federation of Asian Pharmaceutical Association at Sydney, Australia, International Pharmaceutical Federation Conference at Bangkok, member National GATE Committee of Ministry, Government of India, member QRT Committee of Indian Council of Agricultural Research for M and AP, founder member SEAR Forum, Southeast Asia, Regional Forum of WHO, FTP, and serve as a member of Search Committee for Advisor for the selection of topmost senior national position in pharmacy. Currently, he is the chairman of Expert Panel Committee for Approval of Fixed Dose Combination, Ministry of Health, Government of India, member in National Scientific Advisory Group of the Division of Basic Medical Sciences, India, Council of Medical Research, member of National Consultative Committee of Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission and Pharmacovigilance, Government of India, Chairman, member of UOC Committee for Universities, UGC nominee for Special Assistance Program, Chairman, peer team of NAAC and MBA, Scientific Coordinator, EDUCON, SAKAAL Group, Pune, National Advisor, Society of Pharmacology and Academic Council, Senate Member, Planning. Yeah. Okay, I cut down. Okay, he asked me to cut down. So, because I have to read all this, because he's giving on the topic of challenges ahead for developing countries. So, we are very proud to have Professor Dr. Chandrakant Kote to present his paper. Welcome, Prof.
Distinguished Chairman of this session, Honorable Dr. Abdul Ghani Mohammed Din, my esteemed professional colleagues and delegates to this international conference. At the outset, I wish to thank the Pro-Chancellor of Lincoln University College, Dr. BB, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. Amia Baumik, and the members of the organizing committee, including Dr. Arindam Das, for having invited me to participate in this wonderful international event. I am in the profession of teaching for last 4 decades. I will be sharing my experiences of handling the institutions of health sciences. It is the human resource coming out of these institutions determines the quality of the healthcare offered in any country. The quality of education has to be the main focus for any institution imparting the professional health courses. The universities are the epicenters for knowledge creation, knowledge storage, and dissemination of quality knowledge. They are the centers of knowledge explosion. And these institutions of higher learning are required to ensure that the quality of teaching and research is always maintained. Next slide. Education in health sciences is imparted at my university, KLE University at Belgaum, which is basically a university of health sciences in private sector. And we have the disciplines of medicine, dentistry, physiotherapy, pharmacy, nursing, Ayurveda, and other indigenous systems of medicine. We are accredited with A grade by National Assessment and Accreditation Council and also placed under category A by Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. Next slide. Education is the initiation into the life spirit, a training of human soul in the pursuit of truth and practice of virtues, said Professor Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, former President of India, who was himself a renowned scholar, a great academician, and also the former Vice Chancellor of one of the reputed universities in India, Andhra University. Next slide. The quality of education is the essence of professional education, and the process of teaching, learning, and evaluation is its lifeline. It is the component of teaching, learning that is required to be strengthened. And this must be accompanied by a very well-defined system of evaluation. If these two things are in place, and there are innovations that are brought out in this system of teaching, learning, and evaluation, then the quality automatically improves. And this quality creates better quality of the health professionals who will be in a position to man the institutions of health sciences in a country. Next. A good teacher is responsible for quality education. A good teacher has to be an educator par excellence. He should be an excellent communicator. He has to be himself a lifelong learner, a student, who should be always in a position to learn something that is new in his or her field of specialization. He has to be motivator for his students. He should be an elicitor for curriculum development. He has to act as a precursor for academic synthesis. He should be facilitator for professional activities. He has to be a creature with honesty and ethical values. He should be role model for his students. A teacher is always an institution builder. A bad teacher is an institution destroyer. And above all, a good teacher has to be a great human being. All these virtues, all these qualities are required to be seen in the teacher who mans a health institution. Next. WHO, UNICEF in 1988 spelled out the objective of the medical education. The aim of medical education is to produce doctors who will promote the health of people. A doctor has to be trained to be an attentive listener, a careful observer, a sensitive communicator, and an effective clinician. Next. The health education that we see in most of the developing countries today is urban oriented. This is true for many of the countries across the globe also. The health education is more doctor-centric and technology-driven. The environment of medical education needs to be both nationally sensitive and globally competitive. Next. The problems that are faced in imparting quality medical education in developing countries are numerous. Some of them have been illustrated here. In most of our medical universities, we have an outdated curricula. The curriculum that was covered 3 decades ago is even today continued without any innovations. What was taught to us about 20, 30 years back is irrelevant today. And what is being taught today is bound to be out of place, especially in a subject like medicine or health science. The need of the hour is to ensure that the curriculum is periodically updated, at least once in 3 years. Newer things are introduced. And the most important thing is the teacher who is covering the course content must undergo the process of continuing professional development. CPD is one of the important requirements, and this particular component is unfortunately ignored. And that's the reason why the quality of the education imparted in many of our health institutions in developing countries is not up to the mark. We are not in a forced phase to face the challenges that are ahead of us. We are not in a position to cater to the needs of the people in the field of health sciences or healthcare system because of the lack of knowledge. That is the main lacuna that is seen in the present day system of medical or health education. There is outmoded system of evaluation. There are hardly any reforms in evaluation system. The innovations are never thought of. The same system of evaluation continues for years together. This has to undergo the metamorphosis. Intransient attitude of statutory bodies. We have a number of controls. There is a council which controls, the government agencies have their own control, and most of the times the attitude of many of these councils is not very satisfactory. There will be lots of hurdles that are likely to be created, and it's very difficult to overcome all these hurdles. And that is one of the reasons why the growth of the institutions is stagnant, and there is no impetus for the acceleration of the growth. Lack of public health orientation. The component of public health is not given due weightage in our curriculum. Casual approach to research. As compared to developed countries, the health institutions in developing countries lack in research facilities. There is not much weightage given to research. And that's the reason the new discoveries are very rarely reported from the institutions of developing countries as compared to the innovations or inventions that are coming out from the institutions of developed countries. Decline in traditional teacher-student relationship is another obstacle or another drawback that is existing in our present day system. Next. There is a shortage of senior full-time faculty. The requirements of the statutory councils are very rigid. Most of the institutions are not in a position to comply with those requirements. There is shortage of senior faculty. As a result of that, the quality suffers. Prevalence of hospital-based specialization oriented rather than community-oriented education system. This is one area of concern. The community orientation is certainly lacking. The need of the hour is to ensure that community medicine is strengthened. The primary health centers are strengthened, and that's unfortunately not happening today. Inadequate monitored internship program. There is limited access to clinical material in the hospitals. In the medical colleges, we come across number of instances wherein the students do not have free access to the clinical material. The same clinical material is shared by a number of institutions. As a result of that, the knowledge that is required to be obtained at the bedside is not sufficient. And then restricted number of continuing medical education centers or continuing professional development programs. There are very few centers offering CPDs of good quality. And as a result of that, the teachers do not get sufficient opportunities to undergo this particular orientation program. Next. Medical system in most countries is hospital based, specialization oriented, and dependent on sophisticated investigation procedures. Next. Let us try to analyze the reasons why there is paradigm shift required in health education and services. There has to be more focus on public health. The hospital orientation is required to be there, but we cannot ignore the focus on public health. Most of the developing countries have thick population. The epidemics become really uncontrollable once they explode. The need of the hour is to ensure that we have a very strong mechanism to overcome all these problems of public health. Strengthening of primary healthcare system. Our tertiary and secondary healthcare system is good, but we lack in the facilities at the primary health centers. And these health centers cater to the needs of rural masses. There has to be much more orientation on the public health rather than concentrating more on the super specialties as on today, at least in the developing countries. There has to be effective control of epidemics and newer dreadful diseases. The care-driven, rural-oriented and equitable health services should be made available to all the people of the country, to the common man in the street. Next. The physicians should have an understanding of adverse effects associated with multiple drug therapy and overdose of medicaments. And then the consideration of pharmacoeconomic and pharmacovigilance. This should be an integral component of the curriculum that is developed for health sciences. And there should be perfect understanding of the bioavailability profiles of drug formulations that are administered to the patients. These components must also be highlighted so that better quality of healthcare can be provided to the common masses. Next. The steps that are involved in process of creating a quality in the health education are, of course, there should be a vision and mission, formulation of aims and objectives. These objectives should be very clearly spelled out. There should be planning and execution of teaching learning process, including self-improvisation skills for teachers and students. And planning and implementing a scheme of evaluation to measure outcome of learning and to determine quality of education imparted. This is very important. The evaluation component should not be a conventional component. It should be something which has undergone reforms, and it should be very well focused to ensure that the abilities of the students who are appearing for the evaluation examination process, they are totally brought to the surface. And that sort of system has to be evolved in order to ensure that the student has really grasped whatever has been taught. It should not be a parrot type like education. And there has to be something which is required to be understood very effectively by the students, and the knowledge that has been gained or acquired should be in a position to be imparted. It should be implementable knowledge that is required to be gained by the students when they are part of the institution. Next. The quality, quantity, distribution and availability of human resources for the health sector be improved substantially to deliver care-driven, rural-oriented and suitable health services. Next slide. In our country, in 2004, in India, we had established a National Knowledge Commission under the chairmanship of Mr. Sam Pitroda. And this National Knowledge Commission constituted a subgroup to look into the requirements of the health education with a focus on medical education. And they have done a very good job of analyzing the lacuna that was existing then in our system, and they have made certain recommendations to Government of India. The report that was submitted in 2008 has been adopted partially by Government of India, and some efforts have been initiated to ensure that there is quality enhancement in the health services. And this National Knowledge Commission gave some recommendations pertaining to improvisation of health services. One of them was, of course, the content, scope and sequence of courses, including balance between the core and optional courses. The health education, in their opinion, was not sufficient enough to produce quality doctors, and that was required to undergo the process of change. Then integration of ICT in learning resources, learning processes. And this has been emphasized now. And now this ICT has become an integral component of teaching learning system in India. Incorporation of new skills of management, health economics and bioinformatics. These two components have been included in the curriculum of most of the universities in India. Next. There has been a recommendation for total revamping of CME based on distance learning, and a compulsory recertification process every 5 years. This was not existing earlier. Now this has been made mandatory requirement. And for that purpose, of course, one has to gain some credits, and evaluation by credits earned through CMEs, continuing medical education programs. And ICT be used extensively to provide continuing medical education at the convenience of the learner, and this should be given due credit. This was one of the recommendations made by National Knowledge Commission. Next. Functional strategy for health institution should be evolved. It should be an action plan to strengthen an organization's functional and organizational resources, as well as its coordination abilities, in order to create core competencies. Next. I have been talking about the reforms in evaluation. The conventional system of evaluation must undergo the process of change. And of course, two important components which should form an integral part of the evaluation system are OSPI and OSCE. Of course, I'm sure this OSCE is being implemented here, objective structured clinical examination, but it was not part of many of the developing countries earlier. And now this has become an integral component of evaluation. Objective structured practical examination. There should be, of course, the component of multiple choice questions, which should be a mandatory component of evaluation system. Constructed response essay type tests, simulation tests, and assessment of acquired skills using checklist wherever applicable. These reforms are required to be brought in to the system of health education that is imparted by the institutions in developing countries. Next. Excellence is never an accident. It is the result of sincere efforts with skillful execution and vision to see obstacles as opportunities. Next. For an institution imparting health education, there has to be vision. And this vision must be accompanied with action. Vision without action is daydreaming. Action without vision is a nightmare. We may have a very good vision, but there is no strategy, no plan of action. It's of no use. These two things should go together, vision and action. Then only the desired results can be expected. And unless we try to follow this, there is no possibility of improving the quality of the education imparted in our institutions. And for that purpose, there has to be Socrates approach for quality assurance. Quality sustenance is very important. Quality creation is a difficult task. But once the quality is created, maintaining the quality for a longer duration is a big challenge. And unless we assure the quality of the education, the institution's ability is not taken up seriously by anyone. So for that purpose, for maintaining the quality of education in our institutions of higher learning, we must adopt this Socrates approach, where S stands for strategy. We have to develop a strategy. And this strategy has to be very effectively implemented. There should be ownership, there should be a commitment. One should feel that yes, it is my bounded duty to take up this task of building the quality. There has to be continuous improvement. There should be new reforms we can think of, innovations. The faculty should also get involved in research and let the fruits of this research be utilized by the students at large. Let this be a component of teaching learning also. There has to be resource generation. There should be assessment and audit, both internal as well as external audit. Academic audit should be an important and integral component of the teaching learning process. Proper training, evaluation or assessment, and finally the system itself is required to be established on firm footing. If this approach, Socrates' approach, is adopted, there will be definitely a sea change in the quality of the education imparted by our institutions of higher learning. And that is the challenge ahead of us in developing countries. Number of discoveries in health sciences are reported from the institutions of the developed countries. Why is that we in developing countries are lagging behind? The reason is there is no emphasis given on research in our institutions. We do our teaching learning job very seriously, but then we rarely adopt the newer techniques of teaching learning. We rarely utilize the time that is available to us for innovative research, and that is where I think we are lagging behind. For that purpose, I am sure every one of us will agree that it is the statutory councils who are also responsible. They have not encouraged research in the developing countries. I have done the survey for most of the developing countries, and it is, council insists that the number of classes to be conducted, number of professors should be available in the institution. But there is much less emphasis that is given on the research abilities or research efforts that are being put in by the faculty members in the institution. And that attitude has to change to build quality in our institutions. Next. Success is a measure decided by others. Satisfaction is a measure known to us. Let us keep on working to our satisfaction, leaving others to measure our success. We should march ahead on the path of excellence. We should try sincerely to build the quality. Let the success that we have attained be measured by others. That's not our job. We have to create the quality in our institutions and let this quality be appreciated by one and all across the globe. And that is how I think we can come out of many of these hurdles that are usually seen in the system of higher education, especially in the field of health education in the developing countries. Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Chandrakan Kokate. Can I have a seat? Now open to the floor for any question and answers. Prof. Solomon.
Thank you for your lecture. Nowadays, the system of medical education, we name it problem-based learning. Compared with conventional, we are starting with theory and then practice. Now, since year one, they combine. Okay, I like to ask your opinion about this system because it shortens the time to be adapters. In PBL, the time to be adapter is shorter than the conventional one. But frankly speaking, the time of learning every day is more. Most of the students, from morning until night, they have to study.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they lost their fun, they lost their, what we call it, young life, whatever, and then this will be online with what you have explained.
Yes,
Thank you.
it is true that there is much more emphasis on theory, and the students are totally engrossed in teaching. There is very little time left for the practical component. The duration, as I have already said, is decided by the councils, statutory councils, and I think in almost all the developing countries, the duration is almost the same, identical. But the component of preclinical and paraclinical, that is covered. I had discussion with some of the academicians. They say preclinical component has to be very strong and to understand the component of clinical subjects. So nobody is prepared to cut down the duration. But what is more threatening in this system of education is the evaluation system. You know, the students are really very much worried with the existing system of evaluation. So if that tension is brought down, if newer technique of evaluation is adopted, if there is a continuous system of assessment, perhaps this can, this burden can be reduced. But as far as duration of the teaching is concerned, most of the academicians who are associated with this health education system, they say this should be the minimum duration, and one has to undergo this process of education.
Thank you for giving me chance. I am Widowati from International Islamic University, Malaysia, Kuantan. Yeah. I would like to know moreover about your statement regarding, you mentioned that nowadays, developing countries, there is a decline of traditional relation of teacher and students. Can you give me more explanation regarding that?
As compared
maybe
to
examples. Okay.
There is, very little contact between the student and teacher now. Maybe because of the professionalism that has been percolated in the system, or maybe the commercial aspect that is coming in the way. But the teachers are not so freely available as they were earlier. Maybe a situation about 3-4 decades ago, the teachers, the students were approaching to the teachers were very easily accessible. That's not happening today. It could be because of several reasons, and one of them is it's a professional approach that is being adopted by the teachers. They are not so easily available. This is a general observation that has been made. The students do not have free access to the teachers as it was earlier. That is the essence of my presentation there.
My name is Priya. I am from Southern Thailand, Prince of Songkhla University. I feel appreciate your lecture, and it inspired me to be careful, to teach, to be a good teacher and a great being. And could you kindly please give more example about in the organization that we set the vision like research university, how we organize or design the system that to make our teacher to be more sensitive to the